So if you can be the boss, that's great.
No worries.
Thank you.
I got it. You covered it.
I
Go
know
relax.
that's very, yes, exactly.
Oh, you're doing it.
It's okay. This is fine.
I have to take pictures.
Absolutely not a problem.
We'll try not to get into a
okay.
paparazzi scrum, whatever they call
It's
it.
okay. I'm going to sit. It's rolling, so I'm just going to sit down and forget about it.
Welcome to the Lake Sagamore Baroque Ensemble. And this is their concert for the year. While the title sounds a little formal, as most of you know, these are our neighbors and they're amateur musicians.
Excuse me.
They met here, but one of them is what was professionally a special ed teacher. Another is the creator of theaters and plays. Another is a biochemist immunologist, and another is a pathologist, and another is a psychiatrist. So they're all here because they want to share the joy of their music with you. They're playing Baroque music, which was composed between, well, that Baroque is between 1600 and 1750 approximately, and 1750 is when Bach died. The musicians are playing on modern copies of the instruments that were played, the instruments that were played in the Baroque times, so recorder, flute, Baroque flute, harpsichord, and cello. And they'll be happy to talk about their instruments if you have questions later, and their music. The consort will present three pieces. The first is by Alessandro Scarlatti, whom many of you probably heard of. He was born in 1660 in Sicily and died in Naples in 1725. He was prolific and inventive. His four-part sonatas are considered influential in the beginning of the quartets, the modern quartets. The second one is Gottfried Finger, it's spelled F-I-N-G-E-R, and the third is Johannes Friedrich Foch. You may never have heard of Finger and Foch, nor had I till last week. Therefore, I ran over to Germany to check the archives so I could give you a tutorial. Alternatively, you would be smart to think that I took a shallow dive into Wikipedia and have one or two sentences about each to let you know. Gottfried Finger was a virtuoso viol player and a Kapellmeister, which is a conductor of a chorus and an orchestra, usually in a church, as well as a composer. He was born in Germany in 1655 and for a time worked for the Prince of Liechtenstein, who was his patron. When he was 30, he went to England, to the court of King James II, and his name, he became Geoffrey instead of Gottfried. But after only 3 years, James was sent to exile, and so Finger then traveled throughout Europe and ended up in Germany at the end. Like Finger, Foch was German, a musician, a Kapellmeister, and a composer. He was born in 1688. He too traveled extensively, as most professional musicians have to do. He applied to be head of the St. Thomas Kirche in Leipzig, but one of his admirers got the job, and that was Johann Sebastian Bach. Foch died 8 years after Bach died and is considered a link from Baroque to classical music. So I am not a musician, and so I will not say anything about the music except that I think it's lovely and interesting. Hope you do too. Paul is the one who will introduce the actual music when they play. And before the musicians start, I want to thank Paul and Barbara for lending us their space, for all the musicians for sharing in the preparation of this concert, and especially Nancy with the food. And a special thanks to Dan and Sabrina, who were a huge help in filling out this event. So thank you for coming, And please make sure your phones are silenced, and enjoy the concert.
We have the fan on so that you don't roast, but our music is going like this.
So, welcome again. It's over 20 years ago. It's like a miracle that the group of us, the 5 of us, well, with Nancy most recently, joined forces to play our favorite type of music of the Baroque Europe, 16th, 17th, early 18th century. And we're mostly meeting on Sunday mornings right here. And we are in love with Baroque music, largely because the 17th and 18th century saw flowering of this style of music where beautiful tunes are interwoven with stunning harmony by several geniuses of the period. And it's become a passion to try to find old music of this kind that's been around for a long time. And we found some recently discovered works that are discovered in libraries and churches in Europe and brought to publication. We find them, we look at them on Sunday mornings, and we decided on the ones to present to you today, which you, I hope, will see beautiful tunes interwoven among the group of us, which was chamber music of Europe of that period. So the first one is by Alessandro Scarlatti. It's a quartetino, and it involves the group of us playing 3 movements. There's an adagio, allegro, minuet. These are the 3 movements. And at that point, we'll move on to the next piece. Can we have a tuning note? Okay. Is there D? Any questions so far? We don't have to be terribly formal about this. It's not Carnegie Hall. It's Sagamore.
Sagamore Hall.
Sagamore Hall. And I'll get the next piece ready. Just another moment. Thank you. Okay, so here we have a piece by Gottfried Finger. This one is in 4 movements. Adagio, Allegro, Adagio, Allegro. I mean, these are basically Italian for slow, fast, in the tradition of Baroque. And it's called Sonata in key of E minor. And here we go.
I was playing the recorder and now I'm moving to the flute. And it's a whole different embouchure, so if you don't mind, could I have a flute? Okay.
Yeah, so as I think Elaine mentioned, we're not playing on modern instruments. These are copies of instruments of the 17th century. The originals are in museums. They don't travel well through the centuries because of the wood just doesn't.
It's all wood. There's one key. Everything else is done with your fingers on the holes. And the embouchure, instead of having a nice little silver thing you can put your book on, you have to find the embouchure and keep it going. So it's a little bit harder than the regular flute. In fact, I tried the regular flute, couldn't play it. And then this, which is much harder, piece of cake. So I don't know.
Yeah, you can see there's really only one key. Modern flute has 20.
Yeah. All you have to do is put your finger down and blow. Not on this.
And of course, the harpsichord fell into disuse for 100 or more years.
A harpsichord doesn't have little hammers. It has little things that pluck the strings. So it has a very different sound to it. And it's very sweet sound. So you can hear that. You can't make things loud and soft except by creating the effect of loudness and softness. For example, by playing more notes or by pausing before hitting a note. So it's somewhat limited, but it has its very own particular sweetness about it.
Thank you. Okay.
the setting that this would have been played in, when it was originally composed?
Very similar to this. That's because these instruments are very soft. One of the reasons why there are now silver flutes and pianos that have, what is it
Projection.
called? No,
Volume, or, the nature of the
the
rooms.
the metal that is.
Yeah, with
The harp,
iron.
the harp in a piano is metal, because they built in Venice, the first, orchestra room, concert hall was built in Venice, and it was big, and these instruments were lost. So that's when they started to get stronger and stronger sounding instruments, but a salon like this, maybe a little bit, would have been where this music would have been played.
And the composers also wrote for the amateur musician, because that's how they make money.
So, for example, Germany was not one big nation. It was a collection of dukedoms with the duke of that region having a very fine home, and a mark of the upper level of dukes would include having a composer and musicians, a small orchestra. That came instead of the Rolls Royce. That was a mark of distinction and entertaining and quality for leadership in
And
the
also,
community.
if you wanted to be a cook, you had to also be able to play an instrument, or be a coachman or something, because they did it. They did double duty. The people that worked for the Duke also played in the evenings for his soirees.
Any other questions? Meantime, we'll get ready for the third piece.
Our last piece.
Where did the instruments come from, the new versions of the old ones?
They are scattered, the builders of these copies are scattered around the United States and Europe.
New Hampshire.
Yeah, among others.
These
Yeah.
are from a builder in Boston,
Yes.
and they're based on
The original of these, Barbara and I have
matching
copies
flutes.
of an instrument that's in the Victoria Albert Museum. So a couple of years ago, we made a pilgrimage to see Mama, the mother of all Baroque flutes, one very, very fine surviving instrument is there, and we paid homage as visitors.
So what they did, because you can't play the old flutes that are in museums, because wood shrinks. But what the builders did was they took very close,
Oh, they x-rayed
Yeah,
these
right,
instruments,
right.
they made copies.
so we don't know whether what you're hearing is what the people in the Baroque times actually heard.
These are pretty close.
But we think it's close.
Okay, so Johann Friedrich Fasch, this is a sonata in the conventional sonata form. It's in 4 movements: andante, allegro, affettuoso, and allegro. And once again, I call your attention to the beautiful tunes interweaving. I hope it's our job to announce these tunes to you in a subtle and beautiful fashion, one after another, interweaving melodies, harmonies, and that's what Baroque music is all about and what thrills us.
Right.
to
Now,
be able to play it.
this piece, unlike the other pieces that we played, which were really all of us together, has a star, and the star is Jay. That this is his piece, and he is the one that every time comes in. So we're just supporting the soloist here, and we'll do our best to do that.
start from 12. 12? Where? 12?
Let's start from the beginning, because it's so beautiful.
Do it from the beginning.
You don't mind, do you?
Just imagine that you're in our house every Sunday morning at 10 o'clock and we're practicing and having fun. It's not we're having fun, but in front of a lot of people.
The touch screen that I'm using, if I hit it on the wrong side, it takes me back to a whole other piece of music and it's completely shot.
Oh, hold on.
Slower.
A little bit.
The music has a way of accelerating without asking our permission. That happens to even professionals. We've seen it often in concert halls.
They get carried away and all of a sudden.
Yep. Okay.
Okay,
75.
Jay.
Ready? 1, 2.
That's all, folks. Okay, now, anybody who,
Yes, please,
Please ask
we're
us
available to talk about our instruments some more, ask questions about the music itself.
our journeys as musicians, whatever you like, yeah.
What's the range of the flutes you're playing vis-a-vis today's flute?
There's 3 octaves here, and a modern flute would have 4.5 octaves.
And they would be able to go higher?
Yeah.
Uh,
And also
one-
lower,
And higher.
one note
One or
lower.
2 notes lower.
Uh-huh.
The bottom note on this is D, and a modern flute goes down to C. And some have a B natural, but on the high side, there's an additional octave for the modern versions. It has to do with the technology of instrument building, and it's a wonderful history and evolution that all of us have studied at workshops. We have our lessons, of course, and coaching by professionals to whip us into shape, yes, other,
One more. So the modern flute is made out of metal, but it's a woodwind because of the
yes,
tradition?
the history is of the woodwinds being made of wood, and the name has stuck, but it has to do with metallurgy, the technology of very fine precision metallurgy, precision grinding of the materials which just weren't available in 17th and 18th
A
century.
lot of musicians now in symphony orchestras are playing wooden flutes with keys because of the sweetness of the sound of the wooden instrument. It's very different than the metal. And we've noticed that. If you watch TV and you see a concert, you'll very often not only see metal instruments, metal flutes, but you'll see wooden flutes.
Yeah, this is called, what we are practicing, some people call the historical performance movement, which started actually in 1960s and in Europe, and moved up into England and then Boston and then the rest of the United States. So nowadays, if you look for concerts to go to, you may find concerts where this kind of music is played on original instruments, not the modern counterparts.
And there used to be a small amount of musicians, it was a niche thing, not anymore, because a very wealthy man gave money to Juilliard to start what's called Juilliard 415, and they are grinding out musicians like us, not like us, but I mean with these instruments, and they're all over the country now. You can go to a period instrument concert in practically any place, even in Sklodo, anywhere.
Possibly intermediate flutes.
I was gonna say the 415, we said 415, which people
Oh,
may
yeah,
not-
we should explain.
Yeah, it's a level of tuning. Most modern instruments tune to 440. And so we play at 415, which is like a half a step lower than the modern instruments. But
Yeah,
that's
based on the original set in museums.
There are also flutes that are intermediate, so Irish music is often played on a 7-key flute.
Yeah, the evolution and history of the technology, you know, this is the most basic. Well, in the Renaissance times, Middle Ages, there wasn't even the 1 key. The flutes would not have any. And we haven't talked very much about harpsichords and the evolution of the keyboard instruments, but Doug can tell you more about it afterwards. It's very, very interesting history.
The first pianos came around 1711, and only very slowly made their way in, and then people like Mozart and Haydn preferred the piano because it allowed you to do more than the harpsichord. And the harpsichord faded away, almost disappearing. And the piano, the old forte piano they were called, is what Beethoven played on. And then a fellow named Steinweg, who changed his name to Steinway, invented what's called double action keyboard. So he could make very loud music, and that was when cast iron piano came in, the cast iron harp. So there was great pressure, great tension could be brought upon the strings, and pianos could be made very loud, and so now you have very loud pianos compared to this kind of thing. So that's the evolution of that keyboard. Now, of course, everybody's moving along to electronic keyboards, but there is still no electronic harpsichord.
Okay.
Yes.
Another question about the string instrument. Viola da gamba comes into my brain, I don't even know much about it. Would that be a?
If we start talking about that,
That's a whole lesson, right?
That was a
right,
pre-cello.
Yeah, this is
Yes.
this actually is a modern cello that I've sort of made into a Baroque sound. I don't know if there's nobody else playing a stringed instrument. The Baroque bow is shaped differently than a modern bow, which is straight, it doesn't have as big a bow, and it's a smaller amount of hair. Makes a softer, sweeter sound than the modern cello and the modern. I'm using a mute because to play down a little bit from taking over the other instruments, because otherwise it's too loud. The real Baroque cello uses gut strings, which are softer, which you have to constantly tune, so I don't have those. The viola da gamba is a totally different instrument. This has 4 strings. The gamba has 6 strings, and it has frets. It's just a different instrument. And I believe that the cello first started out without a peg, and you held it in your legs without the peg. And eventually somebody had the idea that maybe it would be easier to play if there were a peg. But the Baroque cellos and the viola da gamba do not have pegs. They're still held, so if you go to a Baroque concert, you'll see authentic instruments, and they're holding the cello or the gamba, whatever they're playing, in their legs.
And if you look at pictures from the day, you will not find a woman playing a Baroque cello, because it would be very, with all the skirts and everything, it'd be impossible. In fact, women could not play certain instruments because they were considered not feminine. So they couldn't play the oboe, because the oboe made you do something funny with your mouth. The flute was okay. You saw women playing flutes in paintings.
Yeah, in the evolution, especially in Europe, the viola da gamba existed and was played side by side for a period of time together with, or side by side with the Baroque cello. And then, of course, we have the modern cello, but Nancy has with a lot of work and dedication,
Reconstructed it.
has reconstructed gets it very, very close to a Baroque cello sound.
I would be so interested to hear what you thought of this music. Who's really heard a lot of this stuff? Anybody? Okay. Well, first I want to hear from the people that have heard a lot of this stuff, and then the people that haven't. What's the difference that you've heard from going to a regular concert and what we're doing here?
In terms of Baroque versus more classical music?
Yeah.
Oh, well, certainly what you already said, the sound is much smaller. You know, it's a smaller group. It's, the counterpoint is different. There's not, there's sort of a theme, a turn of theme. There's different instruments playing off of each other with the counterpoint in the Baroque that I think was very particular to that kind of music.
Yeah.
I think that's, you know, and the instruments, like I said, and the A sound, which is tuned lower, is different to our ear. The higher A that we're used to is sharper, brighter, and it kind of goes, now it's like, it's a little more, everything's a little more delicate.
So people who haven't heard this before, do you like it better, the same, not as much as classical music? Yes.
I mean, I'd say it's definitely more calming, like more like soothing, versus louder sound. Like more like, yeah, softer.
Anybody? Yeah.
I've gone to a lot of early music concerts, and I'm not sure when you go to an early music concert, does that include Renaissance and Baroque and?
Depends.
Right,
Depends
so
on the group.
I think what I've heard is probably more of a mix. It's not like at St. John and Divine, they're in some of the back smaller chapels, or Jordi Savall and that kind of thing. But often with this music, I imagine dancers, which I don't, like if I'm in a big concert hall, except maybe classical ballet.
Because a lot of the very earlier Baroque and Renaissance were dancers. And they were, and then because in those days, and singers, in fact, of course, a lot of our music started with vocal music. And then it became more that they would have, instrumentalists would take over. So, yeah, you're right. So I'm sorry, but this is what you get to hear us, and I hope to like it.
Another question.
Yeah, I'm very curious about the people who are drawn to early music, and even about how early music came into the forefront in the 60s and 70s, and whether were certain people that brought that about in particular.
Yes.
Yeah, because sometimes one or two people or
Wanda Landowska.
Took a piano and turned it into a harpsichord.
There were no surviving harpsichords that were in playable condition at the turn of the 20th century. A pianist named a Polish lady, Wanda Landowska, somehow it fell into her head to champion this kind of music, which was being played on modern instruments, and she hired mechanics and craftspeople to convert her piano into the closest approximation of a harpsichord, or initially a forte piano. It was that kind of, and she became famous because she was a very gifted player, and that's what got it started in Europe. As I said, it moved up to England, then Boston in the late 1800s, 1900s, and that the early music movement was thus born.
But you had to find the music, because our music, we know that you can buy, it's available. It wasn't. Nobody wanted old music. They wrapped fish in it. They used it as backings for paintings. So they had to reconstruct. A lot of libraries in Jesuit monasteries had it, but it's still being found in people's attics. So you had to have the instruments, and then you had to find the music, and it's all, I think we're not a store, but if we weren't a store, we have the most music, as Paul likes to say, for what?
intermediate level players. If you come, if you're interested, I could show you our collection of sheet music upstairs. It's very heavy and intermediate level, attractive music of this period. Yes,
Paul? Is it?
yes.
Thank you both for hosting this wonderful gathering this afternoon. This is really special. You teased at the beginning an opportunity for us to hear how each of you came to this music. You told us if we wanted to know that, we could ask you, so I'm asking.
Well, you could start then.
I played modern piano as a boy, and modern bassoon, and then somehow, forgetting some of the intermediate steps, this whole the idea of playing historical copies of the original instruments of the day. I adored Bach, I adored Vivaldi, I enjoyed listening to those composers, and then this movement started becoming more and more popular. Well, it started very, very, as I said, with this one famous pianist, and it spread. It turned, and the other thing is, if you study modern instruments, eventually you come up against a technical playing barrier, which is virtuosity. The 18th, 19th centuries saw the birth of virtuosity. Now, my number one interest was to become a doctor, but I adored continuing to play music, but I could never get good enough on the modern instruments. So a couple of things happened simultaneously. For example, 25 years ago, a billionaire, Bruce Kovner, who played harpsichord in his spare time. Aside from that, he was a financial wizard, and he played harpsichord, and he decided to give $20 million to Juilliard to foster the education of young musicians. And this was like a
Who wanted to play our music
who
on
wanted to
our
play
instruments.
historical music on historical instruments. And that, it already joined a growing interest in this discipline. And Juilliard today is graduating the 10th or 15th class of 20 or 30 such musicians every year. And they're going around the country and starting small orchestras that use historical instruments rather than the modern instruments. And you can see some of these orchestras in New York City or Atlanta, Buffalo, San Francisco. There are pockets throughout the country.
If you wanted to play, if you wanted to start playing, there's a Recorder Society, the American Recorder Society has a chapter in every single city in the country. And every month, there's always a get-together, and a lot of people who start playing the recorder. First of all, they play recorder in school, but it's like the baby instrument, and then you're supposed to put it away and play something else. Well, if you lived in Germany or in Amsterdam or in Paris, they don't put it away. It's a and you could hear it with the way Jay was playing it. It's a virtuoso instrument, and so. The recorder is easier to learn, but it's not easier to play very well. And but you can do that. You can go. Last week were at Hammerstone Music, which is a workshop where people who are interested in early music come, like 400 of us, and we have different periods, and I played in an orchestra, which was heaven, because I had never played in an orchestra before. I actually played in an orchestra, so the music was all around me, not just, like this. So, yeah, it's, you can really do it now, and it's, a lot of people, we're discovering more people. We have this group, Paul and I have another group in the city of other people. People are doing it. People, especially if you've retired and you're looking for something to do that is not gardening, well, maybe you'd like to learn to play an instrument.
Okay, so I have a final question. Were you aware of the tunes interweaving that I talked about? Being that we're now in a small space, just 5 of us, and, you know, we're really close to you. Did you hear the tunes interweaving? In a method that these genius composers accomplished? Yes?
Of course.
That was our goal, to take beautiful tunes that they wrote for us. Yes?
So what would be the step from that to what's considered the fugue? Is it
The fugue?
The fugue, I mean, there's
But we have
repetition
fugues in our
and,
music.
or
Yeah.
is this a type of fugue?
The rules of composition were very carefully worked out in the 17th, 18th century. And one of the methods of teaching counterpoint, which is the interweaving component, not so much the harmony, but the interweaving, that includes a device where there were successive entries of a single tune, one after another. Doug has studied many, many of them. The keyboard is a
Yeah, fugue
major
it's
place.
it's a particular kind of structure that the composers, and we think of Bach very often because he wrote preludes and fugues. So the way that music is structured is simply what a fugue is, but there are a lot of different kinds of structures that but you know, a point of some interest is that during the Baroque period also includes art, of course. And the art of the time is art that you're familiar with, you know, little cupids here, and there are curlicues. There's hardly an empty space that doesn't have some kind of little curlicue or design or face or something. There's always something going on every space, as is with polyphonic music, which this is. And then along came the classical period, and of course classical architecture has none of that. It's just straight lines. And the music changed accordingly. The music became straightforward. It was no longer polyphonic. It became very straight to kind of match what happened in art and architecture. So that was all in the 1700s. And then, of course, as Paul pointed out, with the rise of not popular music, but the rise of a market economy and bourgeois living, there began to be music halls and concert halls. And so they needed loud instruments and they wanted virtuosity. And so the whole Baroque period fell away and we got the Romantic era. And so we've gone back to that earlier time, haven't we?
Yeah. And you can now go back to a time where there's cookies and wine, and you've been such a wonderful audience. We really thank you so much. It would be very helpful if you could take the chairs and put them, yeah. Could you show everybody, Dan, where to
I'm
put
in
them?
the charge of getting photos of you guys, a group shot, so
Oh,
somebody else
okay,
has to do
yeah,
it.
okay. Tom, where's Tom? Tom?
Tom is that right back
It's
there?
right there.
Over there in the back.
Hello, Tom.
Tom, he's going out this way, right?
Show people where to put the chairs, this way. You go out that way with the chairs, there's the front door. That's where the chairs